That brings us to amendment number 11. That means we have passed the halfway mark, everybody. Being brought to you by Councillor Sharp on 1C6.
Thank you, Chair. Amendments up on the screen. I'm looking to delete action 1.C.6, complete city-initiated land use redesignation as based as a residential. And so I'll open. Fully aware that administration doesn't support this, but there are many great things in the strategy, and I'll dig into what I think is great about the strategy later when we debate the main. And it's critical that we do something to address the housing crisis we face in our city. If that wasn't clear to everyone in this room before, I think there certainly is now after the days we've been sitting here and listening to everybody. But the need to do something purposeful is not the same thing as the need to do anything. We've heard from a lot of people on this. Overwhelmingly, the people I've heard from aren't opposed to density, they aren't opposed to affordable housing, and they aren't opposed to the strategy. They just want their democratic right to have a say in front of their elected official. And I want to be clear, I'm not opposed to density. I believe we absolutely need more RCG, and we need more approvals in zoning in Calgary. This is not a debate on goals, it's about process. We can't cut the public out of a process. A public hearing ensures the community voice is heard and should not stop us from building more housing. If the issue is getting more housing built or getting more housing built faster, we can absolutely do those things. We have a process, and I know we can't get it done we can get it done in significantly less time. This is something that this was not addressed in recommendations that will actually make an impact on housing. Government works best when we bring the people with us. People want to have a faith in the process, have faith in the things we've said in the MDP and in the LAPs and what we intend to do. Making this change is not in the spirit of all of that. And I think it's really unfortunate that the federal government would threaten to withhold much needed funds to solve a significant problem over this issue, which most agree on all sides is not the most impactful thing in the strategy. But ultimately, my job is to set policy on things within my control, and that's how I have to vote today. Mayor Gondek, I'm going to have to ask you if you would enlighten us in your debate. If the funding is tied to the process that we heard today, that's over 8 to 10 months. Also, before anyone goes there, because I know you will, I'm not here to toe the line for the current federal leadership team or the opposition. I was elected to be a governor of the city and represent Calgarians. So I ask you to consider this amendment. Let's take this piece out. Let's speed up the process and continue to include Calgarians who want to have a say. But no matter what, let's get more housing built. Thanks.
Councillor Sharp to close.
Thank you. Thanks for the comments, and I will only reiterate what I've said so far. I believe everyone on this council agrees we need to act, and we need to know that everyone is watching closely on what our actions are. But affordability and housing diversity are two different issues. We don't have a housing diversity crisis. We have affordability that we need to be focusing on right now. RCG, we've heard it many times by industry, the directors, it's not a silver bullet for housing. Even with blanket rezoning, the expectation is a trickle effect and not application flooding. It's likely to be measured in dozens, not hundreds or thousands, right out of the gate. Opposing blanket rezoning is not the same as opposing RCG. I think that's the difference here that people are getting confused. 95% of the applications that have come in front of you have actually been approved. That also flags the other distortion of all RCG is good. It isn't. Some sites, some applications should not be approved, yet they likely will now if this is passed and we move forward with the planning department. Talking about facts and evidence, still haven't seen that blanket rezoning solves this housing crisis, but we do have facts and evidence that the data we have in-house to the City of Calgary, we are the fastest in the country and Alberta with a 90% customer satisfaction because Calgarians are actually part of the journey. Where is that going to be in 2 years from now? I'm going to touch upon some of the other comments regarding federal funding. If the federal government feels that the best way to solve the housing crisis is to withhold Calgarians' federal tax dollar money for housing that people badly need over zoning changes, that aren't proven to help and certainly won't make the immediate difference we need. When we are talking about comprehensive action like we are making today to address housing affordability, it's actually their poor fiscal policies that led us here, and I think that's on them. Finally, there's a zero-sum relationship between the right of people to speak at a public hearing and the expediting of housing. That is not true. You can accommodate both, and council should. There's only one kind of developer who's afraid of a public hearing, a bad one. A blanket rezoning enables them. I'm closed.
Please go to e-scribe to vote.
Chair Penner, all the votes are in.
Can you display the votes, please? That motion is defeated 6-9 with Councillors Carra, Pootmans, Winus, Dollywall, Spencer, Gondek, Meehan, Walcott, and Penner voting against.